In the battle to lead Houston, voters put Sylvester Turner squarely in the driver's seat. With just 34 days to work with, can runner-up Tony Buzbee find a way to close the gap? In the nation's capital, House Democrats continue the push toward impeachment. With 2020 looming, can the president convince Americans he's the victim of a witch hunt? And here at home, the state of Texas drops the hammer on Houston ISD. Will a controversial takeover bring better education to more than 200,000 kids? I'm Greg Groogan, and welcome to Watch Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, Charles Blain, founder of the advocacy group Urban Reform. Next up, legal analyst and Houston attorney Carmen Roe. In the three spot, Bob Price, associate editor of Breitbart Texas. Batting cleanup, longtime super neighborhood leader Tomaro Bell. Next up, conservative lawyer and Second Amendment expert Michele Maples. And closing us out on the hot corner, writer, educator, and radio host Antonio Diaz. Let's begin. The voters have spoken, moving incumbent Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner into a December 14th runoff with top challenger Tony Buzbee. Attracting nearly 47% of the vote, Turner flirted with an outright majority before settling for an 18-point margin over runner-up Tony Buzbee.
I love this city. I love everybody in this city. Whether you vote for me or you don't vote for me. Whether you stand with me or don't stand with me. Whether you say a good word or don't say a good word. I am your mayor, and I will represent you to the end.
A few miles away, donning Marine Corps camo, Buzbee addressed his supporters.
Now, somebody say, oh, Tony Buzbee's not going to make the runoff. Well, guess what? We're going to make the runoff. And when we make that runoff, we are going to win. We are going to win.
On the day after the election, Mr. Buzbee was asked by reporters if he'd been drinking before his speech. Buzbee responded that any rambling was due to exhaustion, not alcohol. 34 days, 18 points, a lot of ground to make up for Buzbee and not much time to do it. So let's get to our panel. Tomaro Bell, welcome back. You've been in the trenches. What's your read on what's happening now?
First off, what's your point, family? I am so happy to be back. And yes, Greg is correct. I've been in the trenches and I'm still recovering. It was a long fight and a battle. I had 5 races. Of my 5 races, I learned because I never lose. One of them, I'm in a runoff in 3, and one of my candidates outright won. And now looking at the runoff coming up, let me tell you, each candidate has a pathway to victory. I don't care if it's 18 points, I don't care if it's 20. The problem with a runoff on December 14th, that's holiday time. Most people have their minds made up about what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be cooking, where they're going to be going. They may not be here. In the last 2015, it lost off almost 30% of the voters didn't come back to the poll. So it's who gets their voters out and what motivates their voters to come back. That will determine who will win. In this election, you've seen what money can do. And I'm telling you, on the early voting, especially that first week, nobody was coming to the polls. We did comparisons on a daily. The numbers were abysmal in comparison to 2015 because the voters were not coming out. And it was because of the weather. It was because of the Astros. And then on election day, they showed up and they showed out. So each of the candidates, they have work to do to get those people from Bill, from Dwight, and from Sue to flip from them. That's almost 60,000 votes that neither of them got, that they've got to try to get in this next
Bob
round.
Price, can Buzbee make up that ground?
Well, absolutely. First, before I start, I'd like to say happy 244th birthday to the United States Marine Corps, and happy Veterans Day to all those who have served and those who currently serve. Excellent. So that said, I think when you look at the 52% that did not vote for the mayor, they're not likely to vote for the mayor in the runoff election. So it's a matter of, can Buzbee excite those people to come back and vote again? And that's going to be the work he's going to have to do, is make sure that every person who voted, whether they voted for him, voted for Bill King, or anyone else on that ballot, that they come back out and vote again. And it's easier to motivate those people that want to get rid of the corruption in the city hall than it is for the mayor to turn out people that just want status quo.
Tony, the mayor took a beating on this show from the media, and yet pulls out 46%, 47% of the vote. What was your take on that?
Well, and like we said on the show, if you're going to do a mudslinging fest, I think it brings down voter turnout. I think that's why a lot of folks waited to the last minute to go, because their stomach was churning as they had to pick a choice. And I think really where we're at right now is maybe it comes down to if Tony Buzbee's excited or not. The mayor has momentum. He had momentum at midnight. He was declaring victory, and it looked like he was about to walk away with the 50% plus the one vote he need. Didn't quite happen that way. I think what happens now is he's got momentum on his side. Folks made a decision on if some of these issues would stick or not. Tony Buzbee's got to look back, and I think he's got to decide. Is he going to spend another $5 to $10 million? That might be more than the mayor can raise in a small amount of time. Here's the other thing I think. I don't care if he puts $20 million on the line. Same campaign will lead to the same results where he doesn't get past 30%, unless it is about issues. It's not about mudslinging, and people believe he really wants to do the hard work. Because that's the thing. Well, say it's about Bloomberg, Trump, and any other millionaire. It doesn't seem like they really want to work hard, and it doesn't seem like they really want me to be their boss.
Okay, scrutiny goes both ways, and now it's down to 2. Tony Buzbee gets a lot more scrutiny. What do you think his chances are?
I think they're high. I think Buzbee, as long as he laser focuses on the individuals who were backing Bill King, the individuals who were backing Dwight Boykins, and the individuals that were backing Sue Lovell, if he can rally those individuals to come out on December 14th, I think he's going to beat Mayor Turner. And it all comes down to, do you want 4 more years of corruption and pay to play and somebody who absolutely hates the firefighters? And the answer is no. So we've got to get out there on December 14th and choose a fresh start.
Okay, Charles Blain, nobody thinks about this stuff more than you do. That doesn't work for a media source, and you are your own media source. What's your take on this election outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. It trailed along the lines of the polls that we saw. So everybody was saying that the polling was wrong, Well, it was more in line with what we saw on Election Day than what we had anticipated, or people were saying. I think Buzbee does have a shot. I think, like Tony says, it needs to be a different campaign. Like Tomaro says, we're heading into Christmas season. We need a kind of more upbeat approach. We have not heard from any of the candidates a positive vision of what they want to see from this city. And I think the mayor's a skillful politician. I mean, how else do you get 47% with never having an issue section on your website? And so you really have to engage, and I think we need to see a positive campaign if he wants to build inroads with the folks from King's camp, from Boykins' camp. I don't know how much from Lovell's camp he's going to be able to pull. Even the folks who voted for Derrick Broze and Demetria Smith. I mean, he's got to go after all these people and make sure that if Turner was their second choice, he's showing them why Buzbee should be their second choice. He probably won't be for a lot of them, but I do think there's a pathway there. He just needs to switch up his campaign tactics.
Okay, clear-eyed pragmatist Carmen Roe, what's your takeaway having seen what happened on Tuesday night?
Well, I'm disappointed at the numbers for Sylvester Turner, given all of the corruption and all the stuff that's out there. But I think runoffs, it's anybody's game. I mean, I'm disappointed I haven't seen more from Tony Buzbee. I think he needs the momentum that Sylvester now has. And so, but I think if he gets out there, I think he could change the game. I think he could be our next mayor. You look back at things like the Ted Cruz and David Dewhurst situation, these runoffs bring out these diehard people who are like, enough Turner, I'm coming out to vote. Those are the people that are going to go to those polls. So if Tony can get it together and he can rally those people, I think it's his game.
Real quickly, tomorrow, we're hearing that Buzbee may be sitting on his wallet this time and may not be willing to pay. How much does he have to spend to make it a contest?
I have too much intel that I'm trying to see how I can say this delicately. Okay. All right, look. He gonna need to spend everything that he has to spend in order for him to win this race. Backing up what Carmen said about those who are against him coming out and voting hard, both of them. I was with Bill King. I'm with nobody now. I don't know who I'm voting for. I mean that. I'm nobody. I'm one of those people who, how can you convince me to vote for you? So it's gonna take more than some money. It's gonna take what Tony said, some issues, same thing that he said. You've got to talk about what are you going to do, and especially if you've been in there 4 years, what are you going to do differently?
Got to leave it there. Up next, campaign season continues with head-to-head runoffs for a dozen seats on City Council. Our discussion of the battles to come after the break. Welcome back. In addition to the races for mayor and controller, Houston voters cast ballots to fill all 16 slots on city council, with 12 of those contests now demanding runoffs. 4 incumbents, Carlos Cisneros, Mike Knox, David Robinson, and Michael Kubosh, failed to reach the 50% mark and will have to battle into December. Panel, what are you watching for, and what's your takeaway from the first round? Charles Blain?
Yeah, well, I'm more excited about these than the mayor's race because we actually get to hear about issues in these council races, especially in the district council races. So I'm watching, especially with the ones you just talked about, to see if there's some sort of anti-incumbent sentiment there. Maybe, maybe not. So I want to see if that happens. I'm also really paying attention to districts G and E. They don't have runoffs, but they're traditionally more conservative districts. So I'm curious about how not having runoffs is going to impact that turnout for the mayor's race. So just watching those.
Tony, who are you pulling for?
I tell you what, of course, I think incumbents have an advantage. It is what it is. What I'm interested in is the issues that'll come up. So City Council A, you got Amy Peck versus George Zoer. Sorry if I messed up your name, I probably did. But here's an issue, Spring Branch floods. There's actually citizens who live in the city that have been documenting all the new places that are flooding. I want to bring out their website to the fore. I want to make sure every city council person hears about where it floods in Spring Branch, along I-10, and City Council G. And I want the people to speak up and tell the mayor, city council, state reps that you're sick of it getting flooded. What are you going to do? That's the election I'd like to see. And I think if you come out with those issues, you're going to win. Because you're going to win with probably, 10% of the vote of all registered voters.
All the polling says flooding, #1 issue. Okay. Hang with us. We will continue our discussion of the head-to-head contest to lead our city after the break, so stay with us. Welcome back as we continue our discussion of last week's municipal election, the results of which triggered a total of 13 December runoffs, including a battle for the top job of Houston mayor. I'm going to turn to Bob Price. As you watched the results come in, what was going through your head about the situation on the ground in Houston?
Well, I'm really concerned about these at-large districts where you have conservatives that have been in place for quite some time. This would be their last term to be in office. This city is turning blue very quickly. And if you elect Democrats into those seats and push the conservatives out, and you have a mayor who's not limited by having to get reelected again in the next election, it's Katie bar the door.
Okay. Carmen, what's going to take to get folks in the teeth of a Texas Christmas season out to the polls?
Well, I mean, these races, I think, just like what he said, they're fascinating because they're actually about the issues that everybody's looking for here in Houston. And I think it's great, a testament to the fact that people were really informed when they went out and voted that there are so many runoffs. And so I hope everybody continues to fight for those spots. I hope they get the information out there, make issues like flooding a priority, and I hope that the voters come out December 14th. I mean, the fact that we continue to talk about the excitement on December 14th, I think is a good thing. Usually runoffs are a lowercase issue. When you have the mayoral race as part of it, I think it drums up some excitement, so I hope everybody does come out.
Michele Maples, you watching this process?
I am. So what I think is happening is that there were so many candidates for city council, over 100 for 16 positions. And so naturally you're going to have a split vote, which then means very unlikely that somebody's going to get the majority even with these incumbents. And I think Tony's right, is that the incumbent typically has the advantage no matter what position they're in. But now that we have the dwindling down to runoffs, people can now say, okay, these are the two people, I'm gonna look at them and their issues, and then people can go in and have a smart, informed vote. In my district, District C, we had 13 candidates. What am I gonna do, go and meet and research all 13 candidates, or the normal, well, me, I did because I'm a weirdo, but your normal citizen doesn't have that kind of time. And so now that we've got this runoff, we can focus on the issues and vote in, hopefully, conservative candidates.
Tomaro Bell, you always tell us something we don't know. So what should we know about these runoffs?
You have all of the at-larges positions are in a runoff, and people need to be very careful about who they pick for at-large, because the at-large people have come to me when I couldn't get action from my council people. So you want to make sure one of the at-large people, only one, I would have bet my money would not be in a runoff, and that's Michael Kubosh, who won by the highest amount, and I believe that he would be fine. If I was David or if I was Mike, they have some things they have to be worried about, because in this runoff election, it is going to be critical that they go out and reach out to those people who voted for other people and get those people there for them. Because I believe that the city council should look like the city. It should be a balance. I don't believe in all of what liberals, all conservatives. It should be a balance. And the C race was one of the most heated races. In my neighborhood, in B, I was shocked is the word, SCHOCK, at the people that made the finals. I'm serious. We have 2 candidates in there, and I have no idea who I'm going to support. But it was 100 candidates, and somebody had to come to the top.
Charles, you're watching these closely. What is the race that draws your attention?
I think if one had to draw my attention most, it's certainly, well, it's really all the at-large ones. I mean, I'm a huge fan and have long been a huge fan of Mike Knox, and I think he's been a staunch defender of taxpayers on council. So seeing him being challenged by a younger, very exciting guy, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Kubash, I'm also paying a lot of attention to because he's been such an outspoken critic of the mayor, but he's also been a great council member.
Very good.
And very wildly popular. So I'm very confused about the dynamic there. So I'll be watching that closely. And I believe it's your district, is it, that there's a lawsuit right now from Renee Jefferson Smith suing
that would be B. Acres Home, Trinity Gardens, Cashmere Gardens, not my
watching
neighborhood.
that one too.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, one of the at-large candidates, the incumbents that made it through was Gallegos. Carlos Cisneros, she has a big challenger. What's your take on that?
That's going to be a firefight, especially because Isabela Longoria has a lot of experience having worked for now Texas Senator Sylvia Garcia. Carla's been there for a long time, but that's no guarantee. I mean, we do say if you're the incumbent, you have some advantage. So that is the case because they've gotten elected before, but that's going to be an all-out fight. Here's what I do hope. I do hope that afterwards we all still can get along. I still hope everyone's committed to the community, but I also hope everyone's getting out to vote. And you know how you win? Knock on my door. I like when people come to our houses because I can name entire sections of that neighborhood, of City Council A, where not once has a candidate come to someone's house, knocked on the door, say, I want your vote. That means they're not in the van, that voter activation network, which you have to pay for. That means that they're not in the fix. That means that they don't go to City Hall. Those are the folks I want you to reach out. And I promise you, the candidate that walks the pavement, earns their salt, and makes us understand that they really want the job and will service, they're going to win, and they would be great leaders. I don't care what party they're from.
Okay, a lot of people are saying one loser on Tuesday night was the firefighter union. But can they claw back in this series of runoffs? Go ahead.
The firefighters have to blame themselves because I watched the campaign that they did, and I watched the campaign that they did in 2015. The vigorousness that I saw with them in 2015, I did not see this time. They definitely have to claw back. They have got to, because the voters have already proven to them they support them. Now show you're worthy of that support by getting yourself out there for a city you want to be in.
15 seconds.
Firefighters can turn this election around because runoff elections are about turnout, and the firefighters can work the streets and get people to turn out.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Up next, we turn to the nation's capital in the steady march toward impeachment. Are the allegations against President Trump legitimate or purely partisan? That question up for debate after the break. Welcome back. Checking in on that rocky road to impeachment playing out in the nation's capital. The president is denying a Washington Post report that he asked Attorney General William Barr to call a press conference for the purpose of clearing him of any wrongdoing related to his dealings with Ukraine. The revelation comes as evidence mounts that Trump did in fact threaten to withhold military aid if Ukrainian leaders failed to launch an investigation into former Vice President Biden and his son. Many Republican leaders have pivoted, contending the president's negotiating tactics simply do not constitute a violation of law. Contributing to the chaos, new accounts of the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, conducting shadow diplomacy on his behalf, and the refusal of White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney to respond to a congressional subpoena. Bob, what's your take?
First off, it wasn't shadow diplomacy. Giuliani has an obligation to find exculpatory evidence for his client anywhere he can find it, and that's what he was over there doing. As far as the issue of quid pro quo, there was no quid pro quo. Ukraine did not even know that the funds were being withheld. You can't bribe somebody if you don't tell them what the bribe's about. So that didn't happen. The issue is, if you want to know that this is a witch hunt, here it is. Imagine you're on trial and the prosecutor says, I get to choose which witnesses you get to hear.
Okay,
Get 'em,
Tony, go.
Get him, Tony.
Trump said it on a transcript that he abused power. Mulvaney basically confessed on behalf of the Republican Party that they do it all the time. There's witnesses that basically back all of that up. It's a done deal. It's wrong. I want to see it. However, what's really said is everything Trump touches turns to garbage. Giuliani used to be America's favorite mayor. He is now involved in this. He's now dirty. He is now sunk to the lowest. And when I see him on TV, I feel sad for him. Trump ruins everything.
Carmen Roe.
This is all politics all the time. We talked about this. This isn't due process. This isn't a legal proceeding. This is about the election coming up.
We'll talk more about the president later. Up next, she fought her way into a head-to-head runoff for an at-large seat on Houston City Council. Dr. Leticia Plummer is on our hot seat to make her case to voters. Stay with us. What's your point? We'll be right back. Welcome back. She's a mother of three, a dentist, and a lifelong Houstonian. Dr. Leticia Plummer is looking to add another line to that bio, at-large city council member, position 4. Doctor, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me.
Okay, look, you've been described as a candidate running with a wealth of real-life experience. What about your life is the biggest asset?
I believe persistence and the strong desire to constantly recalibrate is something that I pride myself in. I'm running a business for 20 years, making sure my families are taken care of in terms of my staff, taking care of my patients every single day, balancing budgets daily, raising kids, and just taking care of a household is something that's been great and been a good experience for all of us.
Okay, as a member of council, what would you do to address what we know is the top concern of Houstonians, and that is flood protection and mitigation?
So flood obviously is something that's going to happen in Houston consistently. Let me just give you a very quick case in point. Kingwood's having a huge issue right now in terms of flooding. We have to figure out what's going on. Councilmember Martin has been doing really great in terms of determining what that looks like. The runoff coming from the development happening in southern Montgomery County is the issue, right? And so supporting our other council members to ensure that we hold those folks accountable, to make sure that runoff, that the city's not responsible for repairing the issues that someone else is creating, is something that we have to continue to do. And then spending our money properly, making sure that the money that's poured in to support our infrastructure is spent the right way.
Okay, you have spent much of your life kind of around government, but not being part of it. What can you tell undecided voters, something to convince them to vote for you?
Business. The city of Houston is like running a business. It's the experiences I have. It's 20 years of being on the grind every single day, making sure that everything is taken care of. When money is short, we don't lay people off, right? When services are rendered, that they're rendered to a standard and a level that they need to be rendered. When there's a problem with a patient that I deal with on a daily basis, is how do you handle that problem succinctly, making sure that those solutions are handled. So there's no difference in running a business and being a member on council, in my opinion, because I have those everyday experiences that I go through to give me the support, and it gives me a bird's eye view of what's going on, but still really looking at everything locally.
What can a city council with you on it actually do in the way of improving basic services to make life better for Houstonians?
It's dollars and cents. Right, Greg? It's all about how much money we have. So making sure that we spend the money the right way is really going to be crucial. I'll give you an example. Right now, the monies that we have to fix infrastructure, to mitigate flooding, all that's kind of going in one bucket, right? That property taxes, the business owners pour money into there as well. Metro puts money in there as well. All of it's kind of going into one fund right now. We need to divide those funds up, in my opinion, so that transparency is there, so that every single fund we can identify directly on how much money is going in and what's going out to take care of those basic services that we all need in the city.
Okay, your opponent is smart, he's committed, I know him, but just 22 years old. Should Mr. Dolcefino's age factor into the decision that voters have to make?
So Greg, I did not wake up at 5 in the morning to talk about age. That is not what we're here for. I think Houston wants to know who can take care of the city and who can make the right decisions. You know, my son is 21 years old, right? And they're brilliant. I mean, these kids are engaged now. They really want to know what's going on. They're excited about the political action, and I'm excited that they're getting involved. But there's something about experience and real life experience. When you're sitting on that horseshoe, how are you going to make those decisions? And I can pull from so many real life experiences, just in running my business or raising my family, to the struggles that I experience as well. That I know what Houstonians are going through, and I know how to create equity in this city, and that's what I'm going to do on council.
One last question. You had to make a decision at some point whether to run for one of the districts or to run at large. Why was it important for you to seek to represent the entire city?
Sure. So I come from a multicultural background. My mother is actually from East Africa, and my father is African American. So culturally, as being one of the most diverse cities in the nation, I feel like that really allows me to understand different cultures and how different cultures function, because there's definitely a difference. And also, I just have a wealth of knowledge. And that knowledge base is not really specific on one particular socioeconomic group or one specific race or culture. It's really, it's something I can expand through all cultures and through all people, every single person in Houston. So I felt like at large was a better decision for me versus running for a specific district.
Dr. Plummer, Leticia Plummer,
yes.
Thanks for joining us in the hot seat.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you, Greg.
Okay. Still ahead, it's official. The state of Texas fires every member of Houston ISD's Board of Education. Will the takeover improve outcomes in the nation's 7th largest school district? That topic on our table after the break. Welcome back. The final hammer has been dropped. Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath has ordered a state takeover of Houston ISD, citing illegal secret scheming by a majority of elected trustees and the district's failure to rehabilitate the academic performance of Wheatley High School for the 7th year. Morath will appoint a new superintendent and a full slate of replacements for HISD's Board of Education. Critics say, given recent academic progress, the takeover is far too harsh and undermines the will of local voters. Tony, you are an educator, and Latinos had gained at least close to a majority on that. I'm guessing you don't like this takeover.
Well, this destabilizes communities, school systems, and I will repeat this 30 times. This does nothing to help the students of Wheatley right now. That should be the priority. The students' academic progress right now for them prepared for college should be going on right now as we speak. That's in the tailspin. If people have a beef with any of this, they need to show up to the first public meeting by the Texas Education Agency this Wednesday, November 13th, 6 p.m. at Pershing Middle School.
Charles Blain, what's your take on this?
I think it does help students right now because the alternative is just allowing the district to continue to be out of control and to do nothing to help the students.
Not if you're taking social studies right now.
So I think by putting the board of managers in, it allows some functionality to come back to the board and allows them to do things. And for the critics who say that local control is kind of being taken away by the state, well, what's the point of local control if the district's going to continue to be out of control and not do anything? And if you're an opponent of this, you can apply to be on the board of managers. The applications are open, so send in your resume.
Tomaro, what's going on in the neighborhoods about this?
Let me tell you, I don't like racism of any kind and any color. I don't care how you candy coat it. It is what it is. And I'm very glad that the state came in, because this, what I had heard from schools and what they were being put through by their district director trustees was not right, and it was not fair. I am hoping, I have 2 children who have graduated from the public school system, and I was a very, very active parent. But I hope that this gets Wheatley and other schools what they need. And before somebody says, oh, the state is racist, it was Harold Dutton, okay? Harold Dutton, state representative, who put this bill forth that caused this to happen.
Bob Price.
The key in this is that the voters are going to have to fix this in the long term. And unfortunately, it's the most important election that there is for a homeowner, but it's the lowest turnout of any election that we have, and we've got to find a way to fix that. People have got to get involved in these schools and got to get involved here. It's not going to affect the person that's studying social studies today in the classroom. This is about changing the leadership of this organization, getting some credibility in there, and setting some long-term plans for improvement.
So the STAR test is ruining classrooms right now. That's a state-imposed
That's not what this
test.
is about.
The STAR test is ruining the curriculums across the board. Right now, we could change that in many other profound ways to make sure the kids learn.
My daughter would agree with you.
Hold on. Michele Maples, you've watched this unfold and all all that unfolded at HISD over the last 2 years.
So what's interesting is last Tuesday we saw 4 out of the 9 school board members get replaced, which is a move in the right direction, and bravo to those of us who went out and voted and went ahead and got the leadership out. That is a step in the right direction. However, I think it's too little too late, and the fact that we've got a board of managers coming in to oversee and to start making real changes is an absolute win for the children of HISD.
Carmen, it's been argued that this is a political projection by the Republicans in Austin getting involved in a largely Democratic city. What's your take, having watched this story over the last few months?
Look, I think this is disappointing with a city at, the largest school district in the state, that we have to have people come in. But I don't think this is racist. I don't think this is political. I think this is embarrassing.
It is.
The conduct that has been alleged against these board members is it's appalling. It's shocking, really, that it could ever go on if it's true. And so I think it's absolutely critical that they come in. I think we need to revamp what's going on, and I think we need to focus on the kids and some of the programs that we have in place that are working, and then, of course, make changes for the ones that are not working. But I don't think it has anything to do with politics.
Real quick, Granita Lathan, should she stay? I know they're promising to bring in a new superintendent.
She has done a phenomenal job. I believe that she should stay, and I believe that one of the things they should do is pay the trustees to be on the board. I think that would help reduce some of the corruption.
Wow, okay. When we come back, he was the top vote getter in the race for Houston Council at Large Position 4. Candidate Anthony Dolcefino is here and ready to field questions in our hot seat after the break. Welcome back. It's not completely confirmed, but we believe Anthony Dolcefino may well be the youngest ever candidate to reach a city council runoff in a major American city. It didn't happen by accident. He's smart, he's focused, and this morning he's in our hot seat trying to close the deal with Houston voters. We want to mention also, yes, he is the son of regular Fox 26 contributor Wayne Dolcefino. Anthony, great to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Okay. Something you said to Houston voters worked. What was it?
Yeah, well, I was outspent by my biggest opponent about 10-1. I was outspent by my current opponent 5-1. And I think Houstonians were ready to see a message of change this cycle. They were sick of the pay-to-play corruption stories dominating the headlines every single day. We saw too many rubber stamps on council, and I think what people want now more than ever is a watchdog. I made it very clear how I felt on the issues from day one. I wanted to fight for our firefighters and put more police on the streets. I wanted to stop the cronyism and wasteful spending at City Hall, and I wanted to make sure taxpayers weren't being cheated. From Kingwood to Sunnyside, we're not seeing the dollars come back to our neighborhoods, and so I'd like to fight for everybody in Houston.
So is that what you mean when you say you're running on an ethics platform?
Yes, that means a few things. I want to restore the taxpayer right to know. I think you as a taxpayer should be able to go on a website or somewhere easily accessible and see line item where your dollars are going, every dollar, every contract. When you look right now, there's so many questions about where the other half of our drainage fees are going, or the $400 million in contracts that get passed through without council approval. I want to let full transparency be the way we do business at City Hall.
Anthony, what would you do on council to address the top concern of Houstonians, and that's flooding?
Well, I think people have responded really well to the idea that we need to spend the drainage fee on drainage, 100%. City Hall has not been honest about where those dollars are going. They have plenty of excuses, and we see every time there's a new storm that we aren't prepared with our drainage infrastructure. I also think we need to get our contractors prepared before the storm. We were rushing into things after Harvey, and it had a lot of crony deals being passed through very quickly. You look at the $7 million deal going to Sylvester Turner's former law partner. I'd like to change that system, get everything in order, and make sure we're hiring in Houston, not out of state, hiring our small businesses here in Houston, and making sure we get the best deal for taxpayers.
Okay, close second, basic services, trash cleanup, public safety. What can you do? What would you like to do to make the lives of Houstonians better?
Well, this is something that's very personal to me. My family, we wonder when our garbage is going to be picked up, what time it's going to be picked up. And I really shouldn't have to have a Jeep to drive on the streets in Houston. We need to make sure 311 response times are rapid fire. We need to hold those accountable at the top. This current mayor has decided to blame those at the bottom of these departments for the inaction. I think we need more watchdogs standing up for city services, and that's what I'll be. I'll be a loud vote on council, standing up, spending political capital, even when it isn't popular, to stand up for our residents.
Your opponent is a dentist and a mother who has run for Congress. She's got deep roots in the community. I got to ask you this because you're going to have to answer it. Why are you a better choice?
Well, I think I'm a better choice because I've demonstrated that I will be a check and balance to whoever is at the top of this thing, whether it's our current mayor or a new one. I'm not afraid to stand up to those at the top when it counts. I've been told time and time again not to go after this person or not to say this because it might make somebody mad, might make a future donor mad or a special interest mad. I'm not beholden to anybody, and I think that's one of the beauties of me coming into this thing. I'm bringing the fire of an activist to City Hall, and that's what we need more than ever.
All right, man. Well, thanks for taking the hot seat.
Thank
we
you for
hope to
having
have you back, okay? When we come back, a well-known billionaire poised for a late leap into the presidential sweepstakes. Could Michael Bloomberg be the Democrats' best bet to oust Donald Trump? That question up for discussion when we come back. Welcome back. For the Democratic Party, attracting willing presidential candidates has not been a problem. That said, the likely entry of one Michael Bloomberg into the fray is worthy of serious attention. A former New York City mayor, Bloomberg has both millions to burn and arguably plenty of credibility with moderate American voters who, frankly, are more than a little terrified by all these multi-trillion-dollar structural changes offered by Warren, Sanders, and others. When asked about the prospect of Bloomberg's entry, the president had this to say.
But he doesn't have the magic to do well. Little Michael will fail. He'll spend a lot of money.
Bob Price.
Didn't take long for him to get a nickname. What they need to call him is the Little Coke Michael, because you can't have a Coke larger than 16 ounces in New York City thanks to Michael Bloomberg, and that's coming to a neighborhood near you. But, you know, someone had to take over the "We're going to come take your guns" campaign now that Robert Francis O'Rourke is out of the race, and Bloomberg's the perfect guy to do that. He will come for your guns as quick as he can.
Carmen Roe.
I don't even know what to say about the Coke thing, but it sounds like another Bernie Sanders to me. So I think it's interesting that Bloomberg woke up one day and was like, you know what, there's an election, man, get in that. I think he's way too late coming in. But even if that's not the case, I think some of this backstory with the Cokes and the guns is going to be a problem. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think little Michael's going to fail.
Okay, Charles Blain was your neighbor from New Jersey to New York. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to take it seriously. I mean, he's entering the race late enough that he's avoiding some of the bruises that the other candidates have felt so far. He's got enough money to self-fund. I don't know if he's going to do it, but he has. I mean, he can match Trump most likely. More. He's got the name ID. People know who he is. Some people like him. Some people don't. I think he's a little too far left for me, but I think the average American might be able to resonate with him. So I would take him seriously. I think he's a serious contender.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on him. In this week's proxy battles, President Trump prevailed as expected in Mississippi, but the outcomes in Virginia and the Kentucky governor's race did not go his way. Is this a preview of what we should expect in 2020? Tony, were you encouraged?
Oh, most definitely. I think the biggest win was the Democrat takeover of Virginia in the backyard of the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association got outspent by common sense gun reform champions who are now taking state by state by state. This is a warning for Texas Republicans. Screw your head on right. Talk about common sense gun control and stick to issues, because you got a day of reckoning coming here in 2020 when your state reps are up, Texas education shortly after that. It's a new day in America.
Locked and loaded, Michele Maples.
Always locked and loaded. So nobody's coming after my guns, I'll tell you that right now. Number two, what this shows me is that the Democrats are awfully forgiving of somebody who wears blackface. I mean, this is unbelievable, right? Like this governor gets reelected after such. Tomorrow's like ready to hit me up on that. But it just shows the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, and we saw it with Trudeau. It just shows how forgiving they are of their own people, and it's the hypocrisy just impresses me.
Tomaro Bell, final word.
This tells me how forgiving the Republicans have been for the last 4 years. For somebody to say grab them by the and yet the women in the Republican Party was like, that's the guy I want. Okay, so we didn't talk about forgiving. Well, let me tell you, this does, I believe, preludes to 2020, and I'm telling you, it will definitely prelude to 2020 in Texas.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll have more on the President's Week after the break, so stay with us. Welcome back. This intrigued me. The president's affinity for military pageantry and parades is well known. Turns out he's been invited to one in Russia, and Mr. Trump says he might just go.
President Putin invited me to the, it's a very big deal. Celebrating the end of the war, et cetera, a very big deal. So I appreciate the invitation. It is right in the middle of political season, so I'll see if I can do it. But I would love to go if I could.
Okay, is he just messing with us, Carmen Roe?
Definitely. I think he loves to stir the pot. That's exactly what he's doing. He's like, I can't make it, but I would go if I could.
Okay, Bob Price.
The president is the kid with a little laser, and the Democrats and the media are the cat that's chasing this dot around as he controls it. But that said, the May Day parade is about the communist revolution. It's about what's trying to happen in this country right now, and the president should no way endorse that and should not go.
Okay, Tony.
If Donald Trump goes to Putin's prom as his dates, I'm going to tell you something. If you thought the amount of booze he got when he went to the Nationals World Series game and got booed was loud then, if he goes to Russia and participate in their Communist Day parade, it's going to be even louder. He even got booed at the UFC. 18,000 people booed him. It'd be even worse if he goes to Russia and bows down to Putin.
And he got cheered at the Alabama.
Michele Maples.
So the LSU-Alabama game, he got hooped and hollered, so it all depends on your crowd. Now, with regards to Trump's affinity for military parades, we saw this back on the Bastille Day parades in France. Relax, okay? And so we know that he loves a big military showing. However, this would be an awful optic to go hang out with an awful dude like Putin.
Okay, Tomaro, save time for Blain.
Tony stole my prom from Putin. I mean, that was going to be his date. I'm telling you, this reminds me so much of Cinderella, and he acting like he wanted the stepsisters who could fit in the shoe because Putin said you could come. Get real.
Okay, Charles Blain closes out.
I don't get it. I don't understand the affinity for military parades. I don't understand why he's entertaining this idea. I don't understand why the election is the only thing that's stopping him from doing this. I don't know. It just makes no sense to me.
Bob, final word?
Well, I say again, the May Day parade is about communist takeover, and the president should not be endorsing that. And we need to stop the communist takeover of this country.
Okay, yeah, these guys are not our friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
right.
okay. We'll continue our discussion on a national level with Fox News Sunday and host Chris Wallace.